What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Angel Road Outdoors. And this week on episode 18, I'm joined by my brother, Uncle Adam. And we did a recap for his season, his hunting season for 2023. What worked, what didn't, some things he learned, some things... You know, we even kind of touched a little bit on his history as a hunter and where he's going, or where he's come from and where he's going. And it was a little bit longer than normal, but it was fun, as always, when he's here. So Uncle Adam is my guest this week, and hope you enjoy. Thanks.
You got to write, even if no one published your book, write, because that was given to you to do. You do what it is you're supposed to. You're supposed to build something. You're supposed to create something. I don't know how to do it. Learn. No, it's hard. Yes, it's hard. It's difficult. Yes, right. And it's worth it.
True dat. Real life and sauna. Brett's sauna is taller, and yours is shorter.
Shorter and wider.
Shorter and wider, just like us.
All right. Man, see, I feel like it's been a while since I've talked to a microphone.
I was just gonna say, when was the last time you were over here?
Kansas recap, maybe. Ow.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'd say that was
almost 2 months.
That was the last time. Unless I came over once after that, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It's hard to get you over here.
Yeah, I'm in a season of I hate driving anywhere that isn't delivering food.
Is it because we drove so long to Kansas multiple times that you don't want to drive anymore?
I'm sure that plays into it, where we drive to the hunting property, we drive to Kansas, but I drive to deliver food to everybody all week long, and then for how many years was I working out here and would drive half an hour here, half an hour back? I got to a point where now I don't want to drive anywhere, so I have trouble. Like, even I haven't worked out in what.
You worked out one time in the last 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Which was the one time in the last 8 months. But I'm also I have to fix my gut, so that's what I've been working on for a while.
Like the size of it, or what's going on
inside
of it?
Well, yeah, the size of it. That's the ultimate goal. But which I have, like when I look at pictures from last winter, especially if you watch the video where I walk out on your deck and get into your ice chest bath.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. I was in full bear mode.
Yeah.
So it's better this year, but I've also been it's been a solid month of just being consistent with fixing my digestion, bowels, everything, because it got destroyed somehow, just over the years, I'm sure.
It's a little bit over a long period of time, and then you're like, holy fuck. I think about that all the time when I'm working out, and I think I can remember consciously going to the gym and going, I don't want to work out legs because I worked out legs for so long playing hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And then I never stopped saying that.
Right.
It was just like, I don't want to work out legs. And so then I worked out everything from my nutsack up. And then you're like, well, now I have chicken legs, but the rest of my body looks normally sized. So now you're way behind.
Well, and I wanted instant gratification, bodily gratification. So I would work out what pops the most. So you just go down, do bench press and bicep curls. Yeah. And the next day you're like, wow, those are swole. But if I stop, they'll be gone in 3 days. So I just would do that and then start doing some thighs when I felt like it.
What was the hashtag we did? Was it arms every day when we first started Beefcakes? It was hashtag arms every day.
Arms every day. And then, but my body was hurting a lot, probably because I don't do things. Well, let me say this. I don't do enough of the other stuff, I would say call it exercising.
Yeah.
Stretching, yoga type stuff, which is probably what my body needs more than anything now because it's been beat up so much over the years.
You and me both, I say.
Being in pain, I eventually said, okay, I'm going to take a break, go through life stuff, figure all this stuff out, and then I stopped being in pain, relieved myself of a lot of stress I was going through, and then was left with stomach issues where I'm like, I don't have any bacteria left in my gut, good bacteria. So I'm like, if I eat a salad, I go shit it out in 10 seconds.
Which is always blows my mind.
I'm like, dude,
it's kind of fun.
There's lettuce leaves in there.
Not leaves, lettuce.
Lettuce.
Not leaves in there.
There's lettuce.
There's
in
no
there.
oak leaves and maple
not eating
leaves.
leaves.
A couple of elm leaves.
Romaine leaves.
Yes.
So, anyways, I've been doing that, but not that we're supposed to be talking about this.
No, we are. This is going to be 100% physical fitness podcast. Yeah,
this is all about diet and self reflection. But
I got Adam to come over to do a podcast about his gut, and y'all don't know it, but it's going to be a whole podcast about.
But
gut
I will
flora.
say, in 1 week,
it will not
of consistent prebiotic, probiotic, psyllium husk, and I drink a lot every day. I drank a lot of apple cider vinegar, and in a week I started seeing a difference, and I'm like, man, this is it. Like I gotta spend a lot of time on this. So
you know what you and I both have that a lot of people would probably pay good money to get rid of are fucking bags under our eyes.
Yeah, I just
why
I attribute that to our Vikingisms.
Oh, very good. Okay,
Yeah.
so our Viking heritage gives us
our
designer
cold ass
bags.
European heritage that just you're meant to look like a pirate death stick.
Man, I got to tell you, we could do a whole entire podcast of just this bullshit. We really could, because that's what we used to do all the time. But instead, welcome everybody to Angel Road Outdoors, the podcast. This is episode 18.
Why am I here?
And we are joined with Uncle Adam, Lower Peninsula Adam. How do we want to call it? Because there's Up North Adam. I guess we're both
Only fucking Adam.
Well, there's Up North Adam, which is what we refer to Head as to people who don't call him Head. But he's Up North Adam, and this one is Livingston County Adam? Downstate Adam?
I'm actually Genesee County Adam. But
You're Genesee County?
I'm in the corner of Genesee, Oakland, and Livingston. Literally the corner.
Seriously?
If I go one
Fentone?
street south of my house, I'm in Livingston. If I go one street east of my house, I'm in Oakland.
I used to refer to you as the Genesee County leg wrestling champion of 2017.
That'd be
but
me.
I felt bad because I'm like, I don't think he's in Genesee County. I think he's actually Livingston
I
County.
am in Genesee County.
Again, let's get into the weeds, shall we? Of absolute fucking nothing. You know, I just did Brett here speaking. I just did my season recap since our hunting seasons are officially fucking over. As of today, they're done.
Yes.
Yesterday was the last day, right? Or
What
no,
are you looking at?
Wednesday was.
Wednesday was?
Wednesday was the last day.
Which I was gone for, so mine ended.
I was too.
Mine ended.
I forgot what day it was today. It's Friday.
Yeah, like January 30th or something like that.
Yeah.
or no, 28th.
No, in the 20th.
But anyways.
So I did my recap because it's official. I cannot hunt anymore. I can't hunt deer anymore. And so it's now that Adam is back from his Florida extravaganza, we might as well get him here on his day off and figure out how his year was. So, Adam, how long have you been hunting?
This was my third full year.
God, it feels longer than that, but when I look at it on paper, you're right.
As far as if I was to go back and look at my seasons, this is my third full year, yeah.
21,
2.5
22,
years?
21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. So, yeah, your third year.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. Started slow the first year, just getting in the woods, and then had a one full year of absolute reckless frustration and selfish hunting, and then this was the first year of really,
I wouldn't call it selfish.
Beating the meat, if you
I don't
will.
think selfish is fair.
Well, I say selfish because it was all about. There was nothing about hunting. It was all about me. Like I was out there for me to get what would feed me. Like, and I get this is what people would say. You got to do this anyways. But it was more about like I had to like prove something to myself by killing a big deer, and that to me, I overhunted one property, and then I way overhunted.
We
it.
both did.
And then you always
always
use that
did.
word. It was a perfect word for how I hunted that year, but it became
Desperate.
Desperado.
Desperado.
Yeah. So I was the white desperado.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do I look like if you were to see a white Mexican? Do I look like a white Mexican?
100%. You look like the son of the most interesting man in the world.
Okay, that's not a bad thing.
No, he's a handsome
He's
guy.
got to have skin cancer, but he's always so tan. Anyways, that's how I feel today.
So the reason Adam said that is he showed up today and he's got facial hair that I've never seen before. He has got long and where they stop on his face, long pork chop sideburns, a mustache that just won't quit, and a real long PT, which stands for pussy tickler, that goes from his bottom lip down to below his chain.
It runs into my
his
goatee.
His chain. And so it's a very confusing look. He's a little bit Anthony Kiedis, Serge Tankian, Mark Maron, Elvis. The most interesting man. There's a lot going on right here. This is why he that question.
That overeats mayonnaise.
Sure.
Throw that in there.
The mayonnaise, yeah.
Yeah, it was instant regret, but I felt like doing it this morning.
No. There's no.
There is a
good.
feeling of instant regret when I do it. I'm like, oh man.
It was just a surprise.
But I know it'll grow back.
There's nothing wrong with it. It was just a shock. You remember that time you were working out and I walked out into the barn with just a mustache?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you were surprised. It's more of a shock factor.
I don't have the balls to do just a mustache.
You should.
There's way too much neck in my life right now. Not enough jawline. Way too much.
The problem is you're just not used to seeing it. It's always there.
Well,
it's just got a jacket on.
18.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like recently.
I'm not 18 anymore. Shit,
Nope,
I'm over double that.
Right.
But I also decided that I wanted to dress in my full.
He did. Adam wore his hunting get up, which is just a neutral, beautiful brownish tan color. I mean, it's the perfect color.
Like an olive.
It really is.
Yeah, I can't tell where my face stops and my clothes start.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Anyway, so the Desperado, the white Desperado, is here. Do you feel like that changed for you in this
100%.
This season, 23-24?
Yeah, 100%.
How so?
Well, it leaked into my very first opening weekend,
And that's it? That's the only time it
yeah,
leaked?
and I knew I had a feeling it was going to happen because last year, first sit, shot a doe. She walked right into me.
Yeah.
So I had that in my
that.
mind this year. I'm like, okay, freezer's empty. The first thing I'm going to do this year, I'm going to get it right now. It's going to be like that ambush first sit. They don't know I'm here. Get my doe.
Yeah.
And feel good about the season starting. So I felt that whole week, and I'm like, and I tried to control it. I was like, okay, don't let this take over.
Would you say that that you put that as pressure on yourself to fill the freezer or get that monkey off your back? Or would you call it a desperation to maintain like success? Like how are you viewing that?
Well, it's a mix of all of it. I think because I shot a big buck right away when I started hunting, I went into I didn't know what it was like to not shoot something.
Yeah.
So when that happened the next year, I still had some luck, but you wanted to recreate that. So to me, it was like, if I don't do this again, I'm failing myself as a hunter. And you wanted to prove yourself to like you guys and those that, are around that we hunt with. So I guess there was a bit of selfishness and trying to prove myself.
Well, I'm sorry if I ever put out to you that I have this need for you to prove yourself to me, because you do
it's
not.
Natural.
You don't. The only thing you have to prove to me is that you have self-control when it comes to being out there and hunting. That's the only thing that you would have to prove to me. And it's not that you have to prove it to me. I appreciate it. You don't have to prove yourself as a hunter to me.
I think it's natural for humans.
Waylon told me that this year. My son.
It's not you. It's just ingrained in us to. If you don't, you have to go through that to create your own self-reflection, which then creates discipline, and then you start to learn who you really are. Which I have written down that this year was sort of the season for me to grow into the hunter that I want to be. Where the first 2 years it was like, okay, I got a taste of shooting a big buck, for where we hunt in Michigan.
That is a buck that every one of us would have shot 100 times over down there.
Right.
So you don't have to quantify it or qualify it by saying for down there. That was a big buck.
Yeah, that was a big buck.
Period.
And I remember that day Head looking at me and going, you may not see another buck like this for 10 years.
Correct.
And I didn't think about it until the next season when I'm like, holy shit, I didn't see. I didn't. He was right. So that was a learning experience. But then I went and I did that whole season where I was like, where are they at? I was just, hot breath, mouth watering, seeking out, just
desperate.
Reckless, like killing a buck.
Yeah.
And which I think was all in turn all good, because when the season's over and you set goals or you think about your season and what you need to do, that was the main thing. I was like, you need to become a real hunter and not be that typical asshole that's just trying to kill a big buck.
I think it helps that you have people in your circle that you can talk about that with, who are honest with you and you are honest about it, and then have that conversation. Because I think there are circles of people who probably experience the same thing but aren't responsible enough to identify what it is that was going on, help you get through it or past it, and then you as a young hunter, you're a young person compared to the circles that I'm talking about, that old school mentality.
Right.
You are willing to take that, digest it, accept it, and learn from it, and that doesn't always happen.
Well, I think there's, unfortunately, a lot of people that season's over, the whatever weapon you're using goes away, and you don't even think about it until you get to go out and kill 100%, again.
Yeah.
So they don't sit and process everything and try and get any better or become a better woodsman.
Mm-hmm.
They just put it away until I can go kill something else again.
Yep.
And those are probably the same people that just go in and skirt the edge of a field and don't go the distance,
And they don't, and they're the same ones who say, and again, whatever, that makes them happy,
mm-hmm.
good for them, but they're it's brown, it's down, I don't care if it was a spike, but then in the same breath say we never have any good deer. So
right.
Whatever. Well, that's good. That's good that you were able to do that. Now, again, in the beginning of this year, you felt as though you had a little bit of bleed over of that desperation.
Correct.
How did you overcome it?
Well, I was conscious of it, and I knew that was going to be this season. I had to sort of refall in love with hunting, or else it was going to kill me. Right. Hunting wasn't going to become a passion for me, and it was. And then I sort of destroyed myself, and then I knew that I was still at the top of climbing out of that hole and just had to get out. So I set that goal of shooting a doe right away for several different reasons, but that also that's what caused me to have a little bit of get it done. You got to get it done.
Yeah.
Instead of just thinking, you got a long season ahead of you.
Right.
Sit back and relax. So it was just managing that for that first weekend.
Just so you know, I feel the same way. I feel like I need to shoot a doe right away because I know there's that anxiety of the first season's kill and the jitters and the shakes and the mistakes. I feel that too. So you're not alone.
It's like a test of your system. So you shoot at a target all summer. And this year in particular, I was creating almost an entire new system. So I wanted to make sure it's almost like you want to put your system to work and know that it's you've got everything aligned in that first sit. Because typically, I remember my second year, I was like, oh shit, I forgot this, I forgot that, and I was only doing permanent stands. So
what do you mean by system?
System being every little thing I do. From the start, when I wake up in the morning. So when I wake up in the morning, how I get dressed, how I go through the process of getting out the door to get to the property or wherever I'm hunting, what I'm taking, what's my equipment that I'm going out in the woods with to kill, and then putting that to work by getting up in the stand, which is a lot. A lot of people just say I got up, I got in the tree, and then they tell the story about how they shot a deer. If you really think about that process, just getting in the tree for me is almost 75% of my process. The 25%, when I get up there and get everything settled in and I sit down, it's like you can take a deep breath and I'm finally hunting.
I'd say 90-10.
Yeah, it's even more.
75-25 is very generous. It's 90-10, maybe 95-5.
That system to me was everything this year. So I wanted to know that it worked and not have, but there's a good chance it's not going to that opening weekend. That's when you've got everything out. You've got all your clothes. What are you doing? What are you wearing? How are you getting up the tree? And I did set up, and I did set up that first weekend in my mobile stand, in a good spot, and put everything to work. And it was there. You kind of learn all the little issues you have that you need to tweak as you actually do it. Because getting up in a telephone pole isn't the same as finding a tree. But so that was it. It was like I wanted to get out there, and aside from the fact that like I like having the meat in the freezer, the kids like it. I like the meat sticks and all that good stuff. Knowing that needed to be done, that's almost a little bit of it. Where the other thing is like you got to put your shooting to work, test your accuracy on an actual animal, go through that whole like that's all the part of the system to me.
You know what they say?
I do not.
The only way to get good at killing deer is by killing deer.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
I agree with that.
That fucking stationary foam target in my yard ain't gonna cut it.
No, that's part of my goals moving forward this year. Is
you did a great job this year. You killed a lot of deer this year.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot.
I was very
a lot
happy
more
with-
than me.
So, and I think a lot of that had to just do with it being like a season of patience, where I knew that basically this was essentially this was my first full year of hunting with my system in place that I was going to move forward with probably the rest of my hunting career.
That's awesome. What's nice is that that doesn't have to be explicitly true, because you will inevitably tweak and manipulate things as things get
Correct.
better and break. And like, if you ever want a lighter stand, if you ever want new sticks or a new bow, but I think what you're saying is that being a mobile hunter.
Well, let me tell you what I'm saying.
Yeah, please do.
I went from not leaving a tent,
Right. Oh, that's right. In the very beginning.
getting up in a permanent stand,
Right.
and then this year went to we always have the permanent stands.
Hell yeah.
Those are not part of my system. They're there.
Yep.
My system is so I had the XOP Vanish. That was a hand-me-down from you. That was going to be my stand. So now that's in my system. And when what's going to happen now is when I make tweaks, it's like, okay, I got a lighter stand. I'm just swapping that into where the XOP Vanish was and putting my gear with that.
Right.
So the system's there. It's like, the outline's there, and then you might take your spreadsheet and fill in a new slot. So that's what I mean. I'm not just hunting from a tent in the ground. In fact, we didn't even have tents on the ground this year. So that's what I mean is I have how I want to hunt moving forward, what I really enjoy. And then those are sort of like my work spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just tweak everything as I move forward. Like it was, that's so heavy.
Does it feel good knowing that?
Yes.
Yeah. It's sort of like this
if you
weight.
sit back and think about it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good feeling to know that I am really comfortable with every single thing I have. I don't need to go out in this off season and replace this one component of my system because it doesn't work for me. Like knowing that even if you went into next season with no new equipment, nothing, you could realistically go out tomorrow and hunt.
Yes.
Because your system is secure and set.
Yes.
That's a good feeling.
So now this year for me was all of the little tiny things that you learn throughout this year that you need to work on. I'm not someone that has a lot of extra dough around right now, so I can't just go. So you have to make do with what you have, which I did all year. And I found that there were things I questioned that now that the season's over, I need to go to work on. Okay, my knocks weren't. I spent the money on lighted knocks, and they didn't do me really any good at all. Mm-hmm. So there's a problem there,
right.
And because of those, I had to change my sight. I had to re-sight in after I switched to lighted knocks, and I had to because it was a couple inches off. Mm-hmm. They were dropping a lot faster, so which I wasn't going to do, but thankfully, I can't remember his name. Derek.
The wizard at Sunrise Archery.
At Sunrise Archery. I was buying them, and he's like, I recommend you re-sight in because this is...
Don't just buy them and go hunting out of state.
Don't just assume that they're the same weight. So I'm thankful that I did that. But then, here I am questioning those as a part of my system, and I can't just switch back to the other ones because I know that unless I take into consideration that's probably going to shoot 2 inches higher.
Sure.
But I'd rather know for a fact that that's what I shoot every day.
Yeah.
I questioned my tips.
Do you take notes? Like, do you keep a logbook somewhere where you have all these little things written down?
Yeah, it's in my head.
Oh, that's secure.
It is the only notebook nobody can get into.
What about your phone?
I do have notes in there,
Yeah,
but
good.
I don't typically remember those notes as much as I remember the ones in my head.
Interesting. I have to write them down. I have to write them down so that I can cross them off. Like one night while I was sleeping in my truck in Kansas, I made a bunch of notes for 2024. And I wrote them down so that I could cross them off. Because if I don't make them tangible, if it's not something that I can reach out and touch and have a measurable end date to, I'll never do it. And that's me with life. That's you. Earlier, you joked about being more flexible as a person. That's one of them. Being more flexible, not with my accommodations. I physically need to be do yoga. I need to be more flexible. The problem with that is I left it too ambiguous. It's just be more flexible, not be able to do the splits by June 1st. I should really have done that. Do you have? Okay, I need new strings on my bow, because you do, because I bought that bow. You need new strings on that bow this year. I need them on by X day. Do you do that? Do you put an end date for things so that you know you're working towards it?
So no, but that's I actually spoke with somebody who I've been listening to his podcast, which is Matt at the Mobile Hunter Dojo.
Yeah.
I've been following along with him, and he put out one of his, it's like his third or fourth podcast for that. And he talked about goal setting, and he had some sheets. So
that's exactly where that comes from.
I got a hold of
our
him.
company uses them too.
Yeah, I said, hey, send me that over. So
that's
he
awesome.
did. So I printed them out, went to Florida. I've got them to do now.
Awesome.
Because for me, it's never been if you were to ask me what do you shoot? I remember going in to buy arrows, and thankfully at this point I knew. But he's like, well, what are you shooting? And I'm like, not long before that, I would have been like, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
I don't know the names of my bow, my arrows, my tip. I never knew that stuff. I just knew that I liked it or I didn't, and I was good with it or I wasn't. And if I wasn't good with it, I would move on and try something else. Which is so now that you sort of start to take that generalization of everything, it's breaking each thing down. So okay, what tips have I been using? What are my question marks with those? Asking some questions, and then I think I'm at a point where I want to try and start trying some new things out.
Nice.
Now that the season's over, but so a lot of my goals now need to have it's like you said, that short term time frame.
It doesn't have to be short term. It just has to have an end date so that you know you're working towards it.
Right.
Yeah.
And not too long out. I'd
that's
like
true.
them to be, really, I think as much as we get sad that the season's over, it's not long before it starts again. So
it's already February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've really learned to extend our seasons this year, I think. Starting in September and going all the way through January.
I was looking at it this year man, I know there's a bunch of guys down in Alabama who are hunting right now, and it's January and the rut's just getting going. Maybe I extended my season the wrong way this year. Maybe I should have extended it at the ass end of it.
Yeah.
Because it's hot in September where we went,
right?
But it probably isn't brutal down south in January when the rut's just getting fired up. It's probably quite comfortable.
I was just in Florida,
but I don't
know. It was pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's good, man. That's good to hear. So ultimately, though, you approached this year differently, except you had a little bleed over, and respectfully, so did I. That's why I wounded a deer this year. Mm-hmm. He is ultimately alive, but I did wound one.
Oh, that's not an uncommon thing.
It was very common this year. Among all the podcasts I listened to, 90% wounded deer this year.
Well, I think because it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to, you're still a man. It doesn't make you less of a man.
Yeah, it's just not uncommon.
It's part of hunting. It's part of learning.
Yes. Well, so what do you think worked the most this year for you, and what didn't work?
I think what worked the most for me was my practice got me to the point where I was able to hunt with a compound bow and kill deer. Mm-hmm. Even though I had a couple incidents where it didn't work out, I still, one of those I thought was a great shot.
I sometimes will watch that. I'm like, I don't get it, man.
I don't get it either.
I don't fucking get it.
So, but it was also, so
I swear she's still running around down there.
Yeah.
Because she's got a wound up in her back straps. You might have one lunged her.
The first one.
From the Walnuts ladder stand
That's
one.
the second doe.
Yeah.
My first two doe shots were not successful.
The first one that I watched run through the woods at last light, that one, she's probably dead.
So no, she's the one we saw again with the
swamp.
with the scar on the high of her back.
That's right.
She was in the swamp recovering.
I forgot about
that.
that.
She's the one that survived. The second one, in the walnuts was the one I'm like, I sent you the video and I'm like, dude, this shot is
That's the one I couldn't
point.
believe.
And there was hardly any blood, and we tracked for a long time.
You know, we never talked about any of those. I never ever. I might have posted on Instagram, which I'm going to stop doing forever. Someone released an arrow tonight, or you know, Adam shot a deer. Because then what happens is, and then I never follow up when we don't find them, and then it's like, man, I know there's people that we know closely who are waiting with bated breath to see what happens.
Oh yeah.
I ain't doing it no mo. So that night, I'm in the back swamp corner.
This is opening weekend. I set up my mobile stand south edge of our property, watching a great run.
And so Adam is directly north of me in a straight line. Directly east of me in a straight line. I'm in the southwest corner of the swamp. He is in the southeast corner of the woods in a straight line east of me. Mm-hmm. And it's like last light, and I can hear a deer come crashing through the woods. I'm like, okay, I grab my bow, and I'm like, where is this thing? And then I see this red light bounding through the woods. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's a lighted knock. And then I realized Adam had shot a deer, but I watched this.
You look at my text message?
Yeah, I watched this lighted knock bouncing through the woods and then cross the street and then walk its way west and we never found the arrow. We never found the deer. We tracked blood for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Through the swamp and
crawling through the
thicket.
swamp.
Yeah. It was terrible.
So that was opening weekend.
Opening weekend, yep. That was the one time my knock, I was able to watch my knock, but it was almost last light, and it was a tough angled shot, and I rushed it, and I was impatient and stressed, and I watched her run away, and I thought it was still going to be okay. Yeah. But then I sent my text to you guys. I'm like, if anybody sees a red light running through the woods, and you're like, I just saw her run across the street. And I'm
totally
like,
watched
that's all the way at the back of the property.
Yeah. At that point, that is a several 100-yard survivor, and that's not a good sign.
Yeah. So she survived. We saw her back on camera.
I forgot about that one.
And then I'll quickly run through this. I was sitting in the walnuts, and I had a lot of deer action in there that morning, and I had an adult doe and a couple young ones come in, and she was a little weary of me, and she spent a lot of time roaming around there. And then I beeped her. Eventually, I was watching her
beep,
on
beep,
camera
like that. You go beep 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 beep.
Hey.
Like the fucking Roadrunner.
She was 30 yards away, and I took a shot. I loved it. I watched it on camera. I'm like, that's great. I saw her run away, and never found blood, never found her. Tracked her for hours. And
it is the craziest thing to watch, because again, and I know people have seen these things before. You watch the playback on your phone or whatever, your camera, and you can watch the arrow go through the deer, and then nothing. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I had heard this year more often than not, and then compared it to what Adam found on the arrow, was nothing. There was nothing on that arrow,
correct?
Right?
Yep.
And that's backstraps. That's right clean through the backstraps.
So when I really slowed it down and watched that video, at 30 yards, and this is when I made a decision on how I was going to hunt moving forward, and not everybody has to agree with it, but it's what I'm doing now. At 30 yards, I'm not making any noise unless I absolutely have a deer running that I need to stop. So when I slowed it down and I beeped her, she was on me, and then
instantly.
by the time, so she's looking at me, and by the time my arrow gets to her, is enough time for her to duck just enough to where it missed all the vitals. Still looked like a great shot, but it was just enough. It's a game of inches. So after that, I decided that if they're close enough, I'll stop them.
Yeah.
Because my arrow's going to hit them so quick that it's not going to matter. But at that distance, you kind of do the math. I'm going to shoot without beeping.
Yeah.
She was down eating something I could have shot. It was just a learning experience.
Sure.
So from that point on, then moving forward, I sat in the swamp one day and had a bunch of deer around, and had one walk into me, and she was about 20 yards. Shot her. I watched her run away about 40 yards, and then stopped, and I'm assuming died right there, which she did. And then 15 minutes later, I had another group of does come in straight at me. She turned around, and then I shot her. So I shot, and I watched her die within 40 yards. So I had 2 does within 15 minutes that day. So I'm like, okay,
I can do this.
But that was the thing is, so you kind of I had to step back and go, don't let this become a thing.
Yeah, which is hard to do.
It is, because you can get really down on yourself when you shoot at two does and don't have any success. You start to wonder what's wrong with you.
And then when you play the scenarios back, and in my opinion, only the first one, based on what I can recall how you explained it to me, only the first one was maybe a rushed shot. The second one was like, I don't get it, man. And so then you were able to say, listen, I didn't really do anything wrong on the second one. I know what I did on the first one. And I know how to fix it. Like, remaining confident in your abilities. Why? Because you practiced all year. Mm-hmm. I know my shit. I know I can shoot my bow. I know I can hit my target. I know what I did wrong on the first one. The second one doesn't make a lot of sense, but also I can diagnose it based on what I saw. I shouldn't have stopped the deer. I probably could have aimed a little bit lower, and that's it.
Yeah.
Sometimes shit happens too.
And that was the thing, it was not being afraid to shoot again. Right. Because that was moving forward. I'm like, okay, now you're second guessing everything you worked for. Don't.
Yeah.
Look at what happened, fix what you did with your body, because it was all the mechanics of how I went through the whole thing, and then shoot again.
This exactly is why I said I always want to shoot a doe early to get the fucking jiggles out, man. Like, get one, just reiterate to yourself, yes, I do still got it. Now, you're not always going to have a little flub right off the bat. And so, but that's the whole reason I always want to shoot one right away, is to get it out of the way, man. Okay. Everything's good. Everything's good.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that's nice.
I mean, after that, it was going to Kansas and getting in, and then we were in the rut-ish on our property here. And that's kind of the time of year, like here, where I'm not really looking at does. I've learned my lesson that they're typically being followed by a male figure. Mm-hmm. So I'm just not in the mood to kill any more does at that point. I'd had 2 for myself in my freezer, and actually throughout this process, I had gone out to dinner with my wife and another couple, and we were sitting at the Fed in Clarkston, and our server, I was kind of reading her. She was sort of steering me towards, I ask too many questions when I'm at a restaurant.
People don't know that. Give us an example.
So I can't make decisions on what every meal I'm going to eat is like my last meal. I want it to be the best thing ever. So when I go to a restaurant, I typically like to ask a lot of questions with my server. Everybody will order their food, and I'll be like, all right, I need to ask you some questions.
Adam has to go last. Just keep that in mind. If you're ever about to eat with Adam goes last.
So I'm talking to her. She's like steering me towards these appetizers. We're still on the appetizers. And I looked at her. I said, are you a vegetarian? And she kind of looked at me funny, and she goes, well, sort of. She's like, I will only eat it if it's wild game. And I'm like, interesting. I could tell, because everything you were telling me that's really good on the menu had no meat. So Kelly looks at her and says, oh, well, if you like deer, he can get you a doe, or he can get you some venison. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, sure. If you want some venison, I'll get you some. So Kelly left my number on our tab that night, and she texted me and said, if you can do it, I'll take it. I said, yeah, here's the process, and I'll do it all and get it processed where you just got to pay me for that. So anyways, I had that in my brain. I'm like, I'd love to get this person some meat. So I went through the rest of the rut, doing our thing. We went to Kansas, did the Kansas stuff, which is a story in itself and a lot of my season. But
also, I think, to couple with what you just said earlier, it's a testament to what's working. You are learning woodsmanship, which is what's going to take you further in your hunting career, is learning woodsmanship.
And I think for me, that's all I really care about.
Yeah.
I care about that feeling I get when I'm in the woods, not the feeling I get when I kill. Yes, okay, we're all seeking that adrenaline rush when you kill a deer, but that lasts for half a day.
Sometimes,
I know as you look at your
every fucking day, I look at that thing.
Yeah, but you don't. That rush is like,
I know what you're saying,
when you hit a bump. So, which I don't. I'm just saying. I don't know, but you get that adrenaline rush, and that's what you see.
Oh, a bump, like a
bump.
Good God, man! I didn't know what you were talking about. I thought you meant a speed bump or like something in the road.
Those feelings.
Adam's talking about cocaine.
those feelings we seek. But 99% of my hunting career is going to be the feeling I have just sitting in the woods and walking out and looking at everything. And when I close my eyes and try to become the animal, because that's ultimately the majority of my time is this year was just standing there, looking around, studying, and then shutting my eyes and being like, okay. I remember one of my dad's golf buddies, he'd be on the green and he's to learn his putt. He says, close your eyes and just walk to the cup and you'll feel where the ball is going to go. You'll feel the green. So it's kind of, I feel like that kind of works in the woods too. Like if you were to just sort of be blind and walk in the woods, you would find where you like to walk. And I think a lot of times we find ourselves on a run. You can become the animal. They're not that much different than us. So all that stuff to me is woodsmanship and learning the woods and being the animals, and that feeling to me lasts longer and for the rest of your life as opposed to the rush you get for a couple days when you shoot a buck or something. 100%. And then nobody really cares, and you just got to be happy for yourself.
Well, what didn't work? Sorry, was that too fast of a question while you were drinking your squirt?
Oh, it's a diet squirt. Good stuff.
Could be anything. What didn't work?
Me as a person.
Okay.
My mechanics, my patience level, I noticed this year that everything I did here in Michigan, which is primarily where I hunted, everything had changed. So what you knew about the deer path and the deer travel, everything was behind me. I'd sit in stands and be like, oh my God, everything's behind me. Everything's always behind me. I would turn around, first light, and look around. There's buck staring at me, 50 yards behind me. I'm like, why is everything behind me this year? So I got everything worked out to where my system was there, like we talked about earlier. But then you actually have to kill the animal when the time is right. And I could have killed a lot more animals this year if I had already gone through this failure process of, okay, I'm too impatient when I see something happen. I get too excited. You
talking about Kansas?
Kansas was a big part of it, but there's a lot of sits.
Yeah.
I think I only had one or two sits the whole year where I didn't have an animal around me.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot. I got busted a lot. And it was all of these little things that you just have to learn from.
Oh, yeah.
That are going to make.
And we have talked about this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know, but it's like,
so.
For instance, that buck in Kansas.
That's what made me think of it. Yes.
Coming behind me to the right, gross. He was coming up behind me from the right. The only spot I expected zero deer to be.
Just so you know, I just visualized that deer busting a fat ass nut in the woods right behind you, and you're looking around and you catching him ejaculating in the woods. And then I didn't like the visual that I just painted, but that's what's happened right there.
Now I'm picturing that.
Yeah.
It's not as...
Sorry.
Anyways,
derailed.
off topic. But the way that I wasn't prepared for that, the way I went through the process of getting on him to shoot him, caused me to get busted or to miss.
What specifically? Because I know what you're talking about, but maybe other people don't.
Let me. Can
you spell that? F-R-I-N-S-T-A-N-C-E.
F-U-R.
For instance.
Oh, for instance.
Yeah,
it's one word.
That's what you. Okay.
Skyscraper, Hillsdale. I had deer movement on the top of that ridge behind that stand all the time. That was their
always has been.
So, and I had a lot right in front of me as well, and in every direction ultimately. So I had a point where I could tell there were bucks moving towards me from the north property over the property line, which is that ridge, walking towards me. And I could see him sort of zigzagging back there, late rut. So I had already turned around. I did what I had already learned in Kansas. I was already turned around, had my bow ready, and I was watching them with the tree between me and them standing in the stand. I'm watching on the left side of a big tree. That's what I'm sitting in. So, and then out of the corner of my eye, as I'm watching what looks to me like two bucks in the woods, I'm not sure the size of them yet. They looked nice. I catch out of the corner of my eye behind the tree to my other side of the tree, there's deer over there that I had no idea, and it was a few does. So I'm like, fuck, now what do I do? Those bucks are probably going to end up going that way. They're following these girls. So I start to rush how I moved myself. I'm like, okay, I got to turn 360 degrees the other way. I guess it'd be 300 degrees to get to the other side of the tree, which means I have to, and there's another tree part of it that I have to lift my bow and go around. So anyways, I tried to do it super slow. And then I got busted moving by those does because there was another one I didn't see just to my left.
Yeah.
So it's what I should have done was just sat fucking still. Like, just sit still and let them do what they got to do. Yeah. And let those bucks come in. Screw the does. Let them go. They're going to walk past you.
Yeah.
And you're ultimately waiting for this animal that's 175 yards back in the woods still to come that same direction. But I got so excited that I'm like, I have to get myself turned around and ready now.
Yeah.
And in doing that, got busted. She blew, and every deer was gone. So I never ended up actually seeing what was gonna happen. So, but you know, I it was like 1/3 of the deal I had right, and then the second part of it I failed on. So it's like piecing those little things together, where it's like, okay, my patience level. You know, if you're going to shoot,
that is 100% experience,
right?
And I'm not saying I got it, because I did the same thing this year,
right?
I mean, I rushed a shot, but moving too soon. Being patient, watching the deer's body maneuver, body motion, watching their body language. That's the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. That's just time, man. Like, everybody does it. So I wouldn't beat yourself up on that. I wanted to ask you something before I forget. We have killed more deer from that single permanent lock-on stand than any other stand on that whole entire property. Mm-hmm. The skyscraper stand is perfectly located on the property to harvest deer from every year, no matter what. That's the area. That, in my opinion, the topography of the land right in that area is exactly what the deer want to use for moving in and out of our property. Mm-hmm. So, I say that to say this. How many deer have watched other deer get taken from that stand? So, what if we use that stand as a decoy stand
and set up right around
and
there.
Set up near it? Like, let them look at that stand. Like, what if we got a pillow stuffed to make it look like a human and put it up in that stand early season, and so it looked like there was a dude sitting in the tree stand? Let that be a decoy stand, and then like set up our stand nearby, to pick them off, because every deer looks at that stand. It's 30 feet in the air, but it's down in a hole. And so from one perspective, it's exactly parallel to deer. And then another one, it's almost parallel to the deer, the ridge behind you. But do you think that the deer are picking us off because of how many deer we've shot out of that stand?
My first answer quickly would be no, only because I worked that stand the majority of the year. I went from the walnuts to skyscraper. Those were my two. I like the walnuts in the beginning of the season, all season, but typically anyways, moved to the skyscraper for the second half of that season because I had sort of, I knew every path of travel there, and there was a lot, but you just sort of,
so it still works no matter what.
I can't tell you how many times they walk right under me, walk right by me, 20 yards, 15. I mean, I could have shot several other doe out of there, but I wasn't shooting doe.
Because I think I told you I sat there and got busted, and you're like, that's amazing, because I feel like I sit there and never get busted. Remember that conversation? Okay. So in that sense, do you feel like that area is just so good that the stand will never become obsolete?
I don't think so. Not yet. No.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been there for several years.
So my third doe was shot out of that tree.
Yeah.
This year at the end of the season, which was for that girl, that server. But, I mean, I got busted out of there, but that was because I was way too obvious. I think the fact that tree we're high up, but we are in a hole. So, but when the deer are that close, they're down there too.
Yeah.
There's the second trunk that sticks out to our left. So we're hidden in a little bit of a V, and the tree behind that we're on, the trunk we're on, is wide.
Yeah.
So I think we're pretty well hidden from the majority of the animals in there, and unless you're being very obvious with your movements.
Yeah, but haven't you ever heard people talk about how the deer in Michigan are trained to look up all the time?
Yeah.
And you know why? It's because they're constantly seeing people up in trees. Mm-hmm. They're busting guys in trees.
I don't know if I agree
So
with
my
that.
question is, if we have, like, we kill a lot of does on that property, but we don't kill all of them. And so if they're having babies, who then their mom gets shot from that tree, and then they have babies, and then that mom gets, and then we then shoot the baby that was born the year before. Like, at what level of that cycle are all of the deer attributing that hole to the kill hole?
Right.
Will that happen, or is the topography so great of a tool for those deer that they're successful there far more than they're unsuccessful there? Does that make sense?
I would say it'd be less the killing and more if it's overhunted. And I don't.
Do you feel like we overhunt it?
No, not anymore. I think even the year before was all wet, so we didn't hunt it.
It's wet right now. I was just down there too, by the way.
Like you couldn't even the
I
tree
couldn't
was
walk
in
through
the water.
It was bad. That's a good point. We did have a whole season where we almost didn't hunt it.
So I just think I'd have to see a couple more years there.
I think we should be careful to not ever get to that point.
Well, and that's
because
why
I think it's possible.
I like to. I hunted the south. That south ended up being traveled by the bucks were traveling down that south swamp edge that I liked a lot. I think maybe that we learned that might be a second half of the season.
And I honestly believe if they ever plant our fucking that front 30 acres with corn, that inside corner is going to be unfucking believable. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that. So yes, I agree with you.
Every corner, even the main trail corner crossing.
Dude, I think so, but I've never hunted it to find out. They're always there in the summertime. I agree with you, but I never hunted it.
I just think that they would leave a spot if they see us there more than if we've shot a few deer out of there every year.
Interesting.
So
you think getting busted is worse than the actual killing of the deer?
Well, I don't know if any other deer saw where I was at when I shot my deer out of that tree.
That's a good point. Maybe they don't even realize what's happening.
They see her get shot and they have no fucking clue where that came from.
I suppose that's possible. That's a great point. I'm looking at it very differently.
I just think that the only time that they actually know I'm in that tree is when they bust me.
Yeah.
So if we consistently get busted out of there, hunt after hunt after hunt, then I think it's going to become they're going to travel somewhere else.
You got a good point. I think I overlooked that. So how many deer did you shoot this year?
3 doe.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you shot more than that.
No.
Oh, but damn.
I had the 2 within 15 minutes of apart and then I waited and then had to go back down and shoot that last one.
You know what? I think the picture of, did you send me a picture with yours and Kelton's hanging? Mm-hmm. Then that's probably what.
No. Kelton shot a doe that same.
For some reason, I thought we shot 6 doe.
I sent you a doe. I sent you a picture of Kelton's doe in the swamp. I did not send a picture because it was late night.
Maybe I just miscounted. But anyway, I thought we shot 6 doe out of there this year. 5.
I had 3. Kelton shot 2.
That's good. Yeah. Again, that's good, man.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of people that don't shoot 5 doe off a property, but after listening to a lot of people and seeing a couple slides from Jake Hunts, Michigan, we don't shoot enough doe down there. We probably need to shoot 10 plus.
I talked to Mary that last time I was down there and said Merry Christmas and all that stuff. And,
I see what you did there.
Pun intended. And I was like, there's just so many does. And every time I'd sit in Skyscraper, there was a group of 5, 7, one single one, a couple little one. And I'm like, you could shoot doe every time from the stand.
Yeah.
So that's why I knew. So that I had a group of doe walking right in front of me in Skyscraper. And I was thinking about shooting that very first doe. She was huge. And then this cheese dick runs out and starts fucking with him, and she takes off. Mm-hmm. So then I'm watching that. I'm like, okay, the bucks are chasing again. Yeah. And then I left that night, and I got a text from that waitress, and she's like, any luck? And I'm like, ugh, I literally was driving home, and I'm like, I could have done it. So I knew I was going to go back down and sit there, and ended up getting another doe, but it was just it's constant does.
Yeah.
And it was a very weird year down there, in my opinion, and I think I've heard it from other people. We had some 8s on the property, and then we had some 4s and 6s. That the 4s and 6s were bigger bodied than the 8s.
I went down on Monday morning on my way to Ohio, which I know a lot of people are like, that's not on the way to Columbus, but I made it a point to go do my outdoor exercise by hiking through the woods and collecting all of the cameras that were dead. And I was just going through a card that I pulled because I can see the pictures better on my laptop. And there were a couple of really nice 8s in late November running through the walnuts after dark. And a lot of those 8s that you're talking about were real tall and thin. And I'm wondering, genetically speaking, if those were 1-year-olds and some of the 4s and 6s were also 1-year-olds or 2-year-olds, because there was a distinct body size. Like maybe those 2-year-olds that were like a 6 but real thick are just never going to be huge bucks, like huge antlered bucks, like
Right.
Girth Brooks and Rick Mahorn and hell, even McMurray. But like maybe those 1-year-olds that were 8 this year and were tall and lanky have the genetic makeup to be Girth Brookses, and then those the little chubby guys are going to be the little bully bucks.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was massive, but he probably never had the genetic makeup to be a giant antlered buck.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if we have some really nice young bucks this year that could just be massive 2-year-olds this year.
I'd love to see them. My concern is the amount of gunshots I hear during gun season down there, and if I fear that other people don't have the same self-control, because there were moments where there was an 8 that would walk 10 yards in front of me and stare at me in the walnuts that I could have shot.
I know.
But you have to step back and go, he's not big.
You have to take that risk. In my opinion, we have to take that risk every year.
So you just hope that other people decided not to shoot those bucks.
The other day, when I was driving home and knew I was going to podcast with you soon, I told myself this in the season. I don't think I ever shared it with you, and if I did, then I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but I secretly hoped that none of us shot bucks this year. Because in my opinion, the buck pool from our property down there, not before season, because before season there were shooters. During season, they had left. And so I had secretly hoped that all of the bucks that were on our property lived, so that buck pool was bigger next year, and that we only shot does. And it happened, as far as I know. I just wanted to say, for example, that buck I shot last year with my gun, I think was a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was not a big-bodied deer, but his antlers were big.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, imagine that genetic makeup. If some of those really young deer, those tall, lanky deer this year, can blow up next year and then even make it to 3, we'll have a great buck pool down there. And again, to be able to pass those genetics on. But
so I was super bummed because I had noticed one 8-pointer on camera that I wanted to get. He was going to be my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Kelly, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to get him. He's down there.
Yeah.
And I went and I sat in Skyscraper, and the bucks were chasing, and it would be like this couple does, and then I'd see a young buck come out behind him about 40 yards, and then behind him another 40 yards would be another young buck, and then there might be a third, then there was a third one. And I'm like, they're letting the young ones do all the work.
Yeah.
And then they're going to come in and swoop up. And there he is. He's walking right at me, and I'm like, he lost one side.
And he was still there, like 2 weeks ago, he was there.
I'm very thankful that no one else shot him. There was a moment in my head, I'm like, do I shoot him anyways?
In fact, he has broken more off of that one side.
He's got to be a wild man.
He's only got 2 tines now because that one beam snapped off somehow. I don't know if he's still fucking with other bucks or what, but he is a wild man.
He walked 15 yards on an angle, right to my right side, straight up to the the path in front of the Skyscraper, and I'm like, this was exactly what I said I was going to do, and I can't do it because he lost a side. And I'm like, what are the chances? So it was I would say it was a good, even though I have my buck tags, it was a good year. We could shoot bucks all day long, but they'd be fours. And that's not what we do.
No.
So
no, it's not.
There's a lot of little bucks
Yep.
and a lot of doe, and we just did what we needed to do.
Yep.
So I'm happy with the season, even with the mistakes, those were all learning experiences. And I finally felt late season hunting that I was doing the right things. You're still finding things. Like I figured out that fingerless gloves, when it's 0 degrees, were terrible.
Mm-hmm. With snow, fingerless gloves with snow is a bad idea.
Yeah, so there's little things I'm going to be tweaking.
Yeah.
And I had sort of stalked my way out there for so long, that last sit I did, that I got to the point where I was standing there going, I got to get this pack off my shoulders. Yeah. I'm, trompsing through the snow. Traipsing through the snow. My shoulders had enough of that. My what I'm carrying out there's got to be 50 pounds.
Probably pretty close.
Because that stand is heavy. Everything I got, my backpack.
My full setup is 25. I don't know that yours is double that, but it's probably 35 or 40.
Dude, it's heavy. But that's all I know. So I'm fine using that. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But I think if I ever accidentally try out a lighter one.
Accidentally. If that one accidentally gets mailed to my residence.
I need $600.
No, but you got to have, I think you need to have $500 sitting aside right now, and you need to catch one going for sale on Facebook Marketplace, because guys are unloading them. Because they tried mobile hunting and it's not for them, and so these guys are like, I want $500. But you need to be able to pull the trigger immediately.
Yeah, well, I thought about it at the Mobile Hunter Roadshow last year.
You can get a pretty good
discounted.
Discount.
Yeah. And Kelton bought one, and I'm like, man, I just can't do it right now.
Yeah.
I need to do my due diligence and hunt with the stand that was given to me.
Yeah.
Put the work in, and then see how it is for me, and if I've earned that right.
You did it right, 100%. Yeah. I don't do things right. You did it right. We talked a lot about, and just recently, eating venison and filling the freezer and getting one for somebody who you didn't know, a total stranger. What is the favorite thing you like to cook? What is your favorite thing you like to cook with venison?
She was a stranger, but she became a friend. Like the day she came over and picked it up, she was with her mom. I think she's a young single gal. I don't like how this starts. I say gal. Yeah. She was with her mom, and they were so happy. She handed me my money, and she gave me double, and I said, I'm not doing this again if you don't take all this. I just want exactly what it costs to process the deer. So they were, just to see how happy they were to be given this food. I was like, this is almost greater than the feeling of putting it in my freezer. So it was very cool. So I bought a pound of Hunter's meat sticks, and she's like,
that's awesome.
I'll give you the $10 for that. I'm like, I'll let you.
What's your favorite thing to cook with venison? You can take a sip, bro. I can edit out the pause.
There's 3 different ways I like it, and it's all different. The different cuts.
I'm waiting.
I personally, my favorite way that I've eaten there's 2 of my favorite ways I've eaten the back straps.
Okay.
Heads are, I love the way he does it, and it's super simple. He takes his sous vide pot, sous vide stuff downtown to camp.
Downtown.
And then he just, after that's to temp, he throws it on the grill with just like spicy Montreal seasoning.
Man, so he left that in the camper this year, and I fucking like that seasoning.
Yeah, and it's super simple, but I don't know if we're that hungry when we're down there.
Yes and yes.
But that last time I was eating, I'm like, this is just really good.
Fun fact, I forgot the grill at camp this year.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so the $20 grill, I think, is officially gone. I'll just have to get a little...
that thing's been... It might be... Oh, it's at camp.
It's at camp. Yeah. Like I left it at the campground.
And that is not our campsite anymore.
No. I might just have to get one of those small Blackstones this year.
That's what I want. I've always wanted to throw mine in my truck. I might get a new one, and then we can use my big one.
Okay, fine. Okay, so Uncle Het Up North Adams backstraps is number one.
So then most recently I was limited on time and I took
But hold on a second. Let's touch on something because the reality is that backstrap is one component in a larger meal, which is a lot of butter, potatoes, onions, and peppers.
Yes.
I mean a lot of butter.
I like to cook with butter. I'm sort of like French Mexican American.
Oui, oui. French Mexican American.
A French Mexican American, and I don't know what the fuck.
That's the white
Can that
desperado.
exist?
That's the white desperado. You just totally explained what it was. But
That
so
is
the
how I
backstraps with the buttery potatoes, onions, and peppers is the whole meal, which is scrumptious.
And like the juice from the meat sort of dribbles down the plate and pools under the potatoes.
Oh yeah,
it's sexual.
Okay, so there's numero uno. Number two.
So most recently, I took a bunch of backstrap over to the in-laws' house for the holidays, and I had extra Caesar. I make Caesar dressing for my salads, and I had a ton of extra I made too much, which is typical of Fat Daddy Adam. I used the leftover Caesar to soak in. I put the meat in there overnight, and then the next day, I just threw the backstraps in my air fryer, and I cooked them in that.
Interesting. So they came out crispy.
The outside was slightly crispy,
really,
and cooked to perfection, and they were delicious.
God damn, that sounds pretty good.
And it was so like hands off easy.
Wow.
And then so if you get steaks, I don't get a lot of the steaks because I don't use them as much. I throw those in the Instapot with like the fire roasted diced tomato cans, mild little green peppers that you do in enchiladas and stuff, and you can throw olives in there, onions, green olives preferably, and just stew it all quickly in the Instapot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use the red sauce. I'll do like sriracha and honey at the end, and you just sort of get it all shredded, and you just put that in like street tacos. Okay. So that's really good.
So I've eaten this from Ed Adams all the time. I've never heard him explain the full recipe.
I call it like Rioja is a dish, a French-Mexican dish. So anyways, I don't know if I don't follow rules cooking necessarily, and I think that's my forte. But and then we eat just a lot of ground venison, so my kids just love that. So we make meatballs, tacos, spaghetti. It's
you ever do burgers with it?
Oh yeah, sliders.
Yeah, we do too. We do a lot of burgers. And since you bought me that smashing iron this year, we do the smash.
Have you used that?
Oh hell yeah!
No, good.
Love it.
Do you put a film between the meat and the smash? Or?
No, I did previously, but with this one, I got to figure something out because it did stick a little bit.
Spray it.
Yeah, I just didn't spray it with something.
Yeah, spray the actual smasher. Yeah. And the meat.
Yep.
So
good.
That's
good.
Yeah, that's basically we eat probably mostly. Oh, and chili.
Yeah.
But that's typically
the way we. I asked you for one, but you said like 5.
Well, I was giving you my options for each cut.
I think what you just did was great. I think there's a lot of people who probably, like me, would have never thought. So here's one thing I did that I got ridiculed by Dr. Jones with. I will take my back straps and turn them, and I'll cook them in the slow cooker and then pull them. Mm-hmm. That cowboy roast up there that we're cooking, it is either a roast, and I will also use back straps in the slow cooker with a half a pound of butter, a dry packet of au jus, a dry packet of ranch, and pepperoncinis. Mm-hmm. And then you pull it and you just eat it like with mashed potatoes or some sort of a potato. Anyway, He gave me some shit about cooking my backstraps like that. But the fact that you air fried one, that's very interesting.
It was just.
I wonder how many people have tried that.
I needed it done quickly.
Yeah, I like it.
And I was thinking that might crisp up the outside, but
did it?
Yes.
That's what I wanted. Yeah. I want to feel that on my lips. Yeah.
Obviously, anytime if you just use sugar on the outside, any kind of brown sugar, honey, maple syrup.
So here's the deal, guys. Adam was born to play with food. He was born to create recipes. Adam was born to do this, okay? And so if you are at home and are struggling to come up with a recipe for your family for any type of food, you can reach out to Adam. I've already told him he needs to start a consulting business for food. And I don't know what it's going to be called. I think we're really good at coming up with names for stuff. I think we can come up with something. Adam will probably not charge you, but he could. He will come up with something for you and your family to eat in a matter of moments, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And if he hasn't already got something in the back of his mind, this is what he excels at, amongst other things. So if you're at home and you hear this and you want help with cooking something up that your family will enjoy, Adam can help you. Reach out to him. Where can they find you on Instagram?
Adam
You're
Postal.
not the condiment tornado anymore, which is unfortunate.
Just Adam
and
Postal.
You're not the Lebanese street warrior on LinkedIn.
Was I ever?
Yeah.
A Lebanese street warrior?
You were the Lebanese street warrior.
Remember that?
And I wrote it on Hot Butter. You said that. I used to ask you where people could find you, and you could say on LinkedIn, I'm the Lebanese street warrior.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you Google that, you can find an image of a Lebanese street warrior.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Just like a mayonnaise cannon.
No, I had to have AI generate that.
Oh.
Now, we're not done. Where can they find you?
Well, my Instagram is Adam Postal, ADAMPOSTAL, like the mail service.
Yeah. So reach out to him, talk
Same with
hunting,
Facebook.
talk food.
Taste, smile, repeat.
Yeah.
Salad fever.
Yeah.
Get yeast confections. Whoa.
You don't want to screw that one up.
That's the problem with that one.
So I have two more things. Number one, what is your... So I asked this to Justin Sinan the other day, and I think he misinterpreted what my intentions were for this question, because his answer was perfect. It's his number one thing that he brings into the wood is his woodsmanship to make him a successful hunter. And while I appreciate that, what I was looking for most is, as a relatively new hunter, what is one piece of equipment that you take into the woods to make yourself be able to hunt longer, stay in position to have those opportunities more frequently? Like,
dude, that's
for
easy.
me, I said on mine was my heated socks. What is yours?
So are you saying it's cold? Or just
Anything. It could
length
be
of
early
time?
season. It could be what keeps you in the woods longest to be successful.
In the woods or in my stand?
Yes. You can shoot a deer from the ground, bro.
So I will tell you. So I will also tell you
That was a dirty,
I will be hunting.
creepy
If I ever go
laugh.
back to Kansas, I will be hunting from the ground.
Yes. Lots of people.
And I almost shot a big buck in a wrestling fucking match.
Yeah.
So anyways, one of the most important things that I've purchased, this is so stupid, but this is very important to me, is my boxer briefs that I wear have to have a hole that I can pull my dick out of to piss.
Listen, I did not see it going that way, number one. Number two, I have a pair of long johns that don't, and there is nothing more panicky than when you're about to tinkle and you can't get it out because there's one layer that doesn't have that hole.
So if it's freezing ass cold and I'm wearing my full blown winter gear, and I'm in a tree, and I have my life-saving satchel,
Whatever. Safety harness
on,
Same thing.
which I always do. I have so much shit snap zip be papa doodled around me. I just have if I don't have underwear that I can just reach in and pull little Timmy out to pee, I have to undo my coat buttons, unzip it. That's after I've unclamped my life vest, whatever the thing's called.
Safety harness.
And then under that, my bibs, I've got to unbutton and then unzip. And then I'm down to my clothes, right? So then I've got sometimes a belt, and I got to unbutton my pants, find little Timmy and get him out. But if I can just get down and unzip my pantaloons and pull him out, I'm good. Like, that's one of the most important things when I was getting everything prepped in the beginning of the year. It's like, I got to go buy more briefs that are moisture wicking, comfortable, but also have that little easy access hole, because there are some that don't.
You heard it here first, folks. Adam's number one piece of equipment is underwear with a pee hole in it.
Yep. And then I traveled with an extra pair of socks in my backpack this year in case I had to poop in the woods. Because honestly, I could sit out there all day. I did it this year in Kansas on accident.
Yeah.
I would say now I'm going to tell you something I'm concerned about all year long is headlamps.
Yep.
Because it will enslave my mind at last light shooting a buck and having terrible headlamps. Because my one I left out in the rain, my good one I left out in the rain the very first year I hunted all night long. Mm-hmm. And I think that caused it to not last as long. Mm-hmm. And that's a USB charger. Mm-hmm. And then I have to carry an extra one out there, but they're cheap. They're $4 headlamps. So I need to invest in a really, like, if I'm tracking a deer in the dark, I might need to get a fucking flashlight or something.
Did I not purchase for you a power block that you could keep in your backpack to recharge things like that? Let me help you. Yes, I did.
You got me one for my phone.
It will charge anything that gets recharged.
Oh, I just got to get the right cord.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Does it have a USB plug?
Look at this guy. He is literally.
I use that thing all the time. That thing is always
his
with me.
eyebrows are all the way up at his hairline. He is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I do have something. So you have an external power source. That was my other thing, is an external power source.
I charge
just
my phone
in those
with it every
your
time.
phone,
My camera
your
phone.
camera batteries. It'll charge your headlamp batteries. It'll charge my heated socks batteries. It'll charge anything. Yes. So just keep that in mind. You've always got something, as long as that's always charged.
Yeah, I didn't struggle with my feet this year.
Good. I do.
I got cold, but I survived.
Yeah.
And then so that really is the if I can go to the bathroom, I can stay out there all day.
Well, then let's wrap this up and talk about your goals. What are your goals for this season? What do you hope to do in the off season such that it translates into what for the 2024 season?
My main goal is to be shooting. Oh, I got two. I would
have
like
as many as you want.
A scouting plan for every month. Whether it's just I call you and say, "Hey, want to go for a walk?"
Yes.
And we go back there and walk around anywhere.
Where?
Anywhere.
Where I'm going with this?
What?
Not our one private.
I'm not
piece.
talking about Hillsdale at all.
Let's scout Holly State. Let's scout that other public down there. Let's go scout all these places we wanted to hunt in January and had no idea where to go.
Well, I've gotten good at locating where I believe deer are, and I've been good at it so far, just by e-scouting. Now, it was rushed at the end in late season on Holly Public, but I think it was a successful pin placement. And what I like to do is typically I pick one in my mind, and I'm like, okay, what's the second one? Because the first one is probably where everybody else it came true this year.
Yeah.
And that second one is typically I wanted to think about where do they all get pushed,
Yeah.
And not where,
And we're talking public.
Yeah,
We're talking
when it comes to public, like where do I think they're going to be? It's where do I think they're going to get pushed to?
Yeah.
So I think we were on them in a quick way, but we needed more time to like really be on them.
And also that's end of the year. So I never saw anybody else out there, but I could see signs of human intrusion everywhere I went out there. Reflective thumbtacks, marking tape for access, like to see where you're going, tree stands. There are dudes all the way out there.
Yeah,
so,
but my thing with those is, those could. When's the last time they were used?
That's what I'm getting
we
at.
Don't know.
So I didn't see anybody late season, but let's say I wanted to go out there early season. Are there fucking dudes out there? Are there dudes out there? Are there gentlemen hunting in the early season that will piss me off? Like, I want to hunt somewhere. I want to scout somewhere and try to avoid that. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think it's going to be easy around here.
Yeah, I just feel like if there's 10 dudes in one area or dudettes, that maybe only one of those are actually going the distance. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
So it's your
I agree
chances
with you.
of like the spot we liked. It's going to be slimmer shady to come across somebody, but they will be there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
I always think
so
in
more
my
scouting,
head,
monthly scouting. I like that. I like it a lot.
And I just shooting. I don't care if it's like you guys talked about on a previous podcast. I thought about moving stuff into my basement, which would give me a 10-yard lane.
Yeah,
but
it's
I
the mechanics,
need to
man.
shoot like I don't want to shoot comfortable at all anymore.
Yeah,
because this whole year I was shooting behind me on the opposite side. Like
you feel like
my
your
weak
mechanics
side.
are okay though? Like you feel like your drawing, your anchoring, your releasing is all good still?
I don't know if that's not. I don't think it's nearly perfected.
Well, it may never be perfected,
No.
but it's good enough where you don't have to worry about that. Like you
No,
can focus
I'm
on
more
being
worried
uncomfortable
about.
stuff. Turning
I
around,
need to. I would like to find a
standing on one foot.
broadhead that
Okay.
that I can actually practice with. I don't like the fact that I'm practicing with a field point and not practicing with my actual tip that I'm shooting.
Are you opposed to the cost of the broadheads that I used?
No.
So then when you leave here, we'll go out and I'll give you a couple. We'll lock them up because you can put a set screw in there and then they don't expand. And then you can just try them. If you like them, because I always just buy more.
Mm-hmm.
Take 2 of them and then you can practice with them and see how you like them. And then you'll know if the ones that I use
Are they
you'd
fixed
like.
or mechanical?
They're mechanical. They're severs.
Okay. I was thinking about moving back to fixed, but I'm not sure I'm set on that. It's just one
I've
of
thought
the things
about that too.
I don't know if I love about what I've been using, which is the Rage hypodermic, no collar, mechanicals is. I don't know if I like the mechanical part of it. That's what I was every time when I got up in a tree. One of the first things I did, you get your bow set up, and you get your thumb release on there. Mm-hmm. You get your arrow locked and loaded. But before I did all that, I would pull my mechanical broadhead wings and just make sure they're working, and then lock it back in and go.
That's a problem. You shouldn't have to think that.
Yeah,
I never think that way
because I was concerned that the first couple deer that I hit but didn't kill was that, and I'm sure it's me, right? It's little tiny things. But
Man,
I was
the one that I
afraid-
watch go through the deer is not. It's just a fluke.
I'm like, were those not opening? Are they not? I just
Yeah,
don't like
it's possible.
questioning if it's 100% working.
Right.
So I don't know.
So I think Helix broadheads makes a fixed blade FJ2 or 4, which the number equates to how many cutting surfaces there are. So, like for example, the Helix FJ4, not a FJ Cruiser, an FJ4. I think you can buy a single to see if you like it. Mm-hmm. Like I think they have that option where you can buy it. And there's a lot of these local guys, like the Fall Podcast guys, shoot the Helixes. I think
they're the ones I hear. So I hear them talk about them a lot.
They love
really love them.
Yeah,
so
those would be the only ones that I would try. But here's my problem. I have no problem with my broadheads. I've never, ever, ever, ever had a problem with my broadheads. They fly as true to my field points as ever. They always open. And again, I should knock on wood. I've just never had a problem with them. So that's one thing that I'm actually not going to change up. I'm probably going to get different arrows.
How do you
this
know
year.
that they always open at the right time?
I don't, but I always kill my deer if I don't shoot them in the shoulder. I mean, that's the one thing is like they're not going to go through the shoulder. But I mean, if you shoot the fucking deer where it's supposed to, you're supposed to shoot it. It's gonna kill the deer. They've got this little rubber collar around it that's like a little rubber band, and when you put pressure on it, then the blade will actually slice the rubber band and open.
Okay.
And so, again, I don't know. All I know is they've never failed me. I love the way they shoot. I have no problem. That's the one thing I don't plan to change. But that to each their own. Whatever.
Yeah.
Gather intel. I would try to gather unbiased intel because the majority of the time you're going to get somebody's very biased opinion on them. I shoot through shoulders with these fixed blade broadheads and they're 200 grains. Like you should listen to as many people talk about broadheads as you possibly can before, and then try to shoot them all.
It's really just the fact that I don't like the question mark of how true does it actually fly to the field point?
Yeah.
Because
you can't do that with your Rage, can you?
No.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to spend all this time practicing with a field point and then go out and hunt and plop on a brand new tip that I've never shot before,
fuck that.
There's a question mark that I have.
I used to do that, and I cannot believe I used to do that.
Even if it's a half an inch off, who's to say that doe that I shot in a great spot, that half inch killed me?
Yes, 100% agree. I agree.
And then
with
I
you.
injured a deer instead of killing it, which is the worst thing for me.
Well, you can take some with you if you want to.
And so, yeah. I would love to try it, but the Helix was the other one. I was going to look and see what the question was. How
they
those
have a lot of great reviews.
So
I just don't know. Well, what about? Okay, so we've talked about equipment.
I mean, let me see
what
if
else?
I've got anything in here.
Goals wise, Do you want to shoot $2? Do you want to shoot $1? Do you want to shoot just does again? Do you want to shoot a 200 incher? Do you want to go out of state? Do you want to suck dick for money? Do you want to 69 an old beaver? Like, what are we talking here? What are your
Those
goals?
are always goals for me. Getting money for it is always would be helpful.
The 69 an old lady?
I just don't want to suck dick just to suck dick.
Yeah. $20 is $20.
The
How many states do you want to hunt this year?
I was thinking, aside from Michigan, like 2.
Okay. So 2 additional.
So I heard you say you're not interested in Kansas anymore. That's fine. I still have an interest in going back to Kansas.
Would you go by yourself?
Yeah. I have to get,
Oh.
so I need to get comfortable. So, but here's what
Being
plays a big
uncomfortable?
role with that. If those properties that I got comfortable with are not probably going to be the same properties. next
Maybe.
year, but you never know. And that's that unit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always, I enjoy, I don't think I'd want to go with more than 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
You and I think that was the perfect way to work those properties.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times where I would, drop you off and go hunt
Yeah.
another property half an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to hunt more. I would like to find, I loved finding those big mature bucks.
You don't say.
For me, they were big compared to what I'm used to.
Yeah.
That was a blast for me, whether I got them or not. I was like, holy shit, I can find them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that close to killing them.
Yeah.
So I want to keep that going because that was a lot of fun for me.
Hell yeah.
And then just learn different states. I think the adventure of it all was what was fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
As difficult as it was, just sort of being thrown to the wolves and being like, here's a mobile stand, here's a different state, it's dark, you have no idea where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
you're just starting
That's
out.
the thrill.
Go kill a big buck.
That's the fucking thrill right there.
So I would like to kill a buck out of state.
Hell
and
yeah.
I would like to kill, I'd love to see it and get a 120-inch buck in Hillsdale, but I don't know if we'll see that.
Yep.
Because I think Buster, to me, did we say he was 117?
Yeah, he was in his high teens, I think.
And he was a big boy.
Yeah.
So I'm good with that,
Mm-hmm.
right around there. I don't need to go anything more.
And you
than
know,
that.
honestly,
That excites
that's
me.
me scoring a deer, then I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So he could be more, he could be a little bit less.
So that's all. I don't need 2 in Michigan at all. I just I'd love to get 1 in Michigan. I'd love to get 1 on our private piece. I'd love to see our private piece come back to life.
You know, I would be okay shooting 2 bucks in Michigan if they were not from the same property.
Right.
Does that make sense? So, like,
Yes.
I could shoot a buck in Hillsdale, and then I'd be cool shooting a buck on public in another county. Like, if we went out west and hunted some public land somewhere, either in the southwest corner of Michigan or a couple of those places that I pinned as I was traveling to and from Chicago, that is the only time I would be okay. I'm not going to shoot 2 bucks from one property. I would shoot 2 bucks from 2 different properties, and that's the only way I would shoot 2 bucks.
So moving forward this coming year, I would like to have our private piece.
Mm-hmm.
I would like, I'm good with 1 chunk of public.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where it is, as long as it's relatively close, within driving distance of like Hillsdale. Let's just say 2 hours.
Yep.
So a public piece here, our private piece, I would like 2 out-of-state hunts
Okay.
on public land.
Mm-hmm.
I would like 4 does and a deer in a different state and a deer here in Michigan.
Nice.
Or a buck in a different state and a buck here in Michigan. So 4 does, 2 bucks.
Not a buck in each different state, just 1 buck from out of state.
My goal is 1 buck here.
Okay.
I will do 2 if, like you said, it's a different chunk of land, but that's not going to be in my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then a buck out of state. Great if it's in each state, but I'm going to start with 1 out of state buck.
Nice.
And then 2, I'd love, I have a goal of mine that is not, I don't have a time limit to it, but I want to, my life is so chaotic right now that it's hard to do this, but I want to process my own deer.
Nice.
Which I would like to probably start that on I guess out of state we need to quarter it up, but
Think about how much money you'd spend if you had to process 6 deer next year. Got to take out a
it's
loan for
$135
that.
bucks a piece
Yeah, it's a lot.
here.
I know.
So that's my goal there. My goal is to just tighten up my system. It's shooting every day.
Yeah.
I have to create space for that inside because I don't want to go outside right now and shoot. It just takes too much. I also want to get better in mornings. I am uncomfortable hunting unknown spots in the morning. I love going down to Hillsdale.
You feel like you ruin them?
And walking out in the morning in the dark. And because down there, I don't.
Oh, you mean new spots?
I don't have to use my headlamp. I can go out in the woods and figure it out.
You know where you're going.
But there's a lot of mornings where I would set my alarm to get up and go hunt, and I didn't know where I was going, and it was cold, and I intentionally chose not to because I didn't want to. I wasn't trying not to force it. So I made a decision not to, but I would like to become more comfortable going somewhere I don't know in the dark and finding. You and I went Holly Public this year. Our first time hunting was morning. We walked out there in the dark. I found what I thought was a sweet spot. Mm-hmm. Scott set up, and I heard something walking my way at first light. Mm-hmm. And once I could see, I realized I had pigeonholed myself in a spot where deer were going to be around there, but they're not going to walk where I was.
Yeah.
But in the dark, it looked sweet.
Sure.
And then I realized, so I'm like, holy shit, I needed to go right on the other side of this water. And that's where that deer was. Now, I don't know what spooked him off or her off. It sounded to me like a single buck.
Yeah. Could have been.
Could have been a single doe. I don't know, but it was a good distance away. But anyways, right on the other side of that, I'm like, here's the run.
Yeah.
So it's just getting a better sense of unknown land in the dark.
Yeah. Just time. Like you said, every month doing a scouting mission and dropping pins on Onyx and making notes and taking pictures of the area. Because obviously, if we start looking at stuff right now and into February and March, it's going to look very different than June, July, August, September. And then when you go in there in October, for example, like let's say you want to go out there early season, one thing that we don't do, at least I don't do it, is I tell myself, this is where I want to mobile hunt from my saddle, but I don't pick the tree out. And so I find myself very frequently, even in Hillsdale, where I know those woods upside down, inside out. I'm going to show all you folks what it's all about. I will walk out there with my saddle to an area that I want to go and not find a tree. Mm-hmm. I need to physically identify and possibly even prep a tree on our private for hunting saddles. Like if I know I want to hunt this area, pick a tree, bitch. Don't just go out there blind, because I will go out there and I will walk circles, and then I will end up somewhere that I'm in a permanent set because I didn't prep something, and that's a huge problem for me. So for me, that's my goal.
I started forcing myself to get in a tree because there were I in the early stages of mobile hunting found myself not hunting an area because I couldn't find the perfect tree.
Oh yeah. You're way better at that.
Before that, I would climb whatever.
Yeah, and
I'd be 250-pound bear in a 6-inch tree, and that just that wasn't working.
No.
So there were times where and then I was like, holy shit, I walked all the way out here, found a good spot, and then walked away to go sit in a permanent stand because I couldn't find a tree, and I was just standing there. So I started just soaking in. I would just stand there and be like, you got to just pick one. And if it's not perfect, so then I did, and then I would have deer walk under me, and they didn't see me. So I'm like, okay, in an ambush style, you get 1 or 2 sits to where you might you're not going to get noticed, but then if you're going to keep sitting in the open like that, they're going to know you're there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I don't know. I had to just sit there and look around and say, get in a tree, fat boy.
I want to get us another property to hunt, like another private.
And
piece.
I'm not even there yet. As much as I want to do that, I'm so focused on everything else. I'm like, I want to write letters. I want to get involved in this, but I don't.
The problem is I just like what happens when that private piece is not being fruitful and you want to go hunt somewhere else. But then every time you go to public, there's 50 fucking guys. And like, all I have to do is just sweet talk those gentlemen neighbors of ours. I feel like I'm so close. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's exactly the answer, but I have a feeling that we could probably find a little more success with just a little bit more space. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I really would love it. Mm-hmm. I'd also love it if it wasn't right there, if it was closer to us. Like closer to our homes.
Yeah.
Oakland County, Genesee
Well, it was
County,
nice getting
Lapeer
up at
County.
5 and going out to
I know.
Holly Public.
So much better. Anyway, that's just some things for me. Listen, we're going to wrap this up because we're 90 minutes in already, which is kind of long. So I would say to you this. You are still a relatively new hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I have a ton of experience, but from your perspective, if you met a young man who wanted to become a hunter, and he was just getting started, and he was collecting his gear, and he's already pretty much set up. He's got a piece of private just like you. He's got public access just like you. I mean, everything's pretty much just the way that you got started. What would be what's the most important piece of advice you would give that new hunter?
I would say to not worry about killing an animal and to walk your ass out there and fall in love with those woods, and then you'll start to fall into place, like where you're going to hunt and when you're going to kill. I think a lot of times, for me it was killing first, and now I'm falling in love with the woods, and I would flip that around and learn to go for a walk before you learn to climb in a tree to shoot a deer. Because for me, I think, all the deer that I found, I wouldn't have found them if I wasn't on the ground enjoying where I'm at.
Sure.
Because when you get down into that, I always think about that Kansas property where you walked all the way down this field and all the way past this wildlife preserve, and then you had to go up this ditch and through some shitty trees, and then you're in this area where you're like, this is like serene woods. You fall in love with it. You're like, this is beautiful, and then you climb a tree and they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. If I didn't do that, I would have climbed the first tree I saw, which is where everybody else wants to hunt, and then you don't see any deer. So because to me it was how quickly can I get in there and kill something?
Yeah.
We met that kid at the gas station down in Kansas, and he
Yeah.
was like, I'm just starting off. I'm all by myself. I'm only sitting in tents.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do? He was trying to learn while we were buying eggs.
Yeah.
Like how to hunt properly or whatever, but
I forgot about that guy.
he was obsessed over a deer. He's like, there's a massive buck out here. He was obsessed over it.
Yeah.
And I get that. But
It happens.
I just go back to when you guys dropped me off and I had no idea where I was going to
Yeah.
that tent in Hillsdale. I didn't know the property. I didn't know where they were coming from. And then, I had no fucking clue. It was just hoping that something was going to walk in front of me, but
So to summarize that long-winded thing there, no,
scout
it's
first,
okay.
kill second.
Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
We live. Social media can fuck you up. Podcasts can fuck you up. We live in an age where information is so readily available. You can really overconsume, and then you can be burdened with information. Trail camera photos, maps, this guy's podcast, that guy's podcast, this guy's social media account. Just do it. Go in the woods and fucking hunt and figure it out. And then love the process. Learn to love the process.
Yeah, because it is scary.
Yeah.
It
can be.
Even, like I said, like learning dark in an unknown place, it can be scary, or you think you're going to run into other hunters and that they might yell at you, or you're in their way, or you're fucking up their hunt and all that stuff. But it's like, I think the community out there, I would get into the community too. Like, you can find, there's a great community of hunters that
really
have each other's backs, and are supportive more than the guys that are gonna be grumps.
The worst part is we're not as loud as the other side.
Right.
The other side is way louder. The fuck you side is way louder than the no, it's okay, man. The good people are here. We are trying to create and cultivate a big, welcoming community. But the whiny, old, grumpy, crotchety old people, they're just the loudest right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just get out there and learn to become the deer, and then I think you'll be a good hunter.
Hell yes. We'll remind everybody where they can follow you.
Instagram, Adam Postal.
Is that it?
Taste, smile, repeat.
On
Instagram.
And also
on Instagram, Salad. Is it Get Salad Fever?
I think it's Get Salad Fever.
Salad Fever. And then Facebook is just Adam Postal.
And there's also some of Adam at Beefcake's Gym, I believe.
Beefcake's Gym on Instagram, which is
Instagram.
Beefcakes_Gym.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I do a lot of sharing of Beefcake's Gym on the Angel Road stuff, just because they're both here, and
There's
so
a connection.
they commingle. Yeah, they're both a wellness center.
Or you can come to my house in Fenton and I'll cook you a dinner.
Tickle you.
Tickle your feet.
Yeah.
Pop your
Cool.
toes.
Well, I'm glad you came over.
No, same Z.
You gonna go work out before you go home?
No, no. No.
No.
Nope.
All right, man. Well, we'll have you come back soon, and we'll do it again.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye.